I love Leap Day!
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're taking a look at major events that occurred on February 29th, that extra day that comes but once every 4 years.
Nothing's impossible on Leap Day!
The first leap day, 45 BC. Let's start at the very beginning. Julius Caesar's impact is felt even centuries later, but we bet you didn't know that he was responsible for leap years.
Caesar puts into effect probably the greatest calendar reform the Western world will ever have. Rome had been using the lunar calendar, and the months were out of sync.
Aided by Greek astronomer Sosigenes, Caesar sought to make the Roman calendar align with the solar calendar, ultimately resulting in the Julian calendar.
Rome goes to the solar calendar, the so-called Julian calendar. It is basically the calendar that we in the West still use today.
Taking a page from the Egyptians, this calendar encompassed an average of 365.25 days. To make things nice and even, it was decided that an additional day would be added to the calendar every 4 years. The math was slightly off, as the average calendar year is closer to 365.2422.
And we measure a calendar year as how long it takes the Earth to orbit the Sun, 365 days. Except the time it actually takes for the Earth to circle the Sun is 365.24 days.
This prompted Pope Gregory XIII to introduce the Gregorian calendar in the 16th century, and it remains the norm throughout most of the world. Christopher Columbus looks to a lunar eclipse, 1504. Some believe that Christopher Columbus was a great explorer. Others say that he was simply in the right place at the right time. Time was certainly on Columbus's side in 1504 toward the end of his fourth and final voyage.
One of the greatest sailors of all time basically ended his career by being marooned on a deserted island. And that was it. That was the end of Columbus's sailing days.
Columbus and his men were stranded in Jamaica, receiving little help from Governor of the Indies Nicolas de Ovando. The island's indigenous people supplied Columbus's crew with food as they waited to be rescued.
With fresh food now available for his men, Columbus can turn his attention to finding a way home.
After nearly half a year, though, the locals cut Columbus off, feeling the Spaniards weren't giving much in return. Columbus realized that a lunar eclipse was coming on February 29th.
Carrying an almanac with 30 years worth of lunar predictions, Columbus finds that just 3 days away, on February 29th, 1504, there will be a lunar eclipse.
In a power play, Columbus told the Jamaicans their actions would turn the moon red, convincing them to continue providing. First warrants for the Salem witch trials, 1692. The Salem witch trials stand out as one of the most notorious blemishes in American history. While the trials lasted just over a year, they led to more than 200 people being accused, 30 being found guilty, and at least 20 dying.
Them citizens are hanged. Not on a hill comfortably outside of town, but right here, close enough for villagers to watch.
This injustice commenced on February 29, 1692, when arrest warrants were issued for 3 women: Sarah Good, who was destitute, Sarah Osborne, who rarely attended church because of her health, and Tituba, an enslaved native woman.
The adults start to suggest to the girls, are you harmed by witches? Is there someone around you who's harming you? And they come up with 3 names: Tituba, Sarah Good, who is a beggar, and Sarah Osborne.
Whereas Good and Osborne professed their innocence, Tituba claimed that she spoke to the devil, who influenced her to harm children.
The hairy beast stood next to them on 2 legs. I signed its book. Blood read my name next to theirs. Sarah Good, Goody Osborne, others.
Good was executed after refusing to confess, while Osborne died in prison. Although Tituba was released and sold, it's unclear what became of her. Hattie McDaniel makes Oscar history, 1940. The 12th Academy Awards marked multiple firsts. In addition to being the first Oscar ceremony to fall on a leap day, Hattie McDaniel became the first African American, as well as the first person of color to win an Academy Award. McDaniel prevailed for her supporting performance as Mammy in Gone with the Wind, beating co-star Olivia de Havilland.
Now, Miss Scarlett, you come on and be good and eat just a little, honey.
No, I'm going to have a good time today and do my eating at the barbecue.
If you don't care what folks says about this family, I do.
McDaniel nearly wasn't allowed to attend due to the segregated venue, although producer David O. Selznick pulled some strings. Despite not being permitted to sit with anybody other than her agent, William Meiklejohn, McDaniel delivered a historic acceptance speech before her peers.
She was invited there as a nominee, but she was not able to sit with her fellow cast members. She sat at a separate table because it was a segregated venue.
Just as leap years are a rarity, it'd be a while before another Black performer won an Oscar, much longer than 4 years. A future pope almost dies, 1944. The world came to know him as Pope John Paul II.
Pope John Paul was a groundbreaker. He was the first non-Italian pope in more than 450 years. He traveled more and named more saints than all other popes combined.
On February 29, 1944, though, he was Karol Józef Wojtyła, who was still a couple of years away from becoming a priest. At the time, Wojtyła was working at a limestone quarry. Heading home on this leap day, he was struck by a German truck in a hit-and-run. Wojtyła's unconscious body was eventually discovered and taken to the hospital where he recuperated over the next 2 weeks. In addition to various cuts and an injured shoulder, Wojtyła endured a fractured skull and a nearly fatal concussion. Wojtyła was already considering dedicating his life to a higher power.
At some point, in the midst of his own sadness and the Nazi terrors around him, he decided to become a priest and joined illegal seminary classes.
This accident was seen as a turning point that, in time, led him to the Vatican. The family circus debuts, 1960. For over 60 years, the family circus has been a staple of newspaper comics.
Let's print Grandma on one of the eggs and mail it to her.
You can't mail an egg, Dolly.
You can if you put enough stamps on it.
The strip's eponymous family was introduced on February 29, 1960. Technically, we only met the family matriarch in the first strip. Answering the door, Mommy is confronted by a survey taker who inquires if there are any children in the house. Apparently, the toys scattered across the floor and the annoyed look on Mommy's face were not dead giveaways.
Mommy's awake. She's coming out. What are you all doing up so early?
To answer his question, there were 3 children, Dolly, Billy, and Jeffy, with a fourth, PJ, being born in 1962. Despite most of the family being absent from the debut strip, creator Bill Keane quickly established a tone for his comic, which his son Jeff continues to this day.
Just one of those things. I always feel like I'm drawing my characters, I'm drawing my family, so that made it easy for me. I don't think I would have just created my own cartoon. Because I was so close to it. It was something special.
The first royal birth, 1964. James Ogilvy was born to Princess Alexandra of Kent and Sir Angus Ogilvy, the former of whom is Queen Elizabeth II's first cousin. While any royal baby is sure to make headlines, Ogilvy's birthday had the distinction of occurring on February 29th. This made Ogilvy the first member of the British royal family to be born on a leap day. His parents did not anticipate this, as Ogilvy was more than a week overdue. Aided by her husband, Princess Alexandra gave birth at her home in Richmond Park, Thatched House Lodge. Princess Alexandra is no stranger to unique birthdays, as she was born on Christmas Day. Ogilvy grew up to pursue a career in landscape design and photography, in addition to launching the magazine Luxury Briefing.
The question, what is luxury, is probably quite easy to answer. That is something we don't need.
Hank Aaron becomes the MLB's highest-paid player, 1972. For the longest time, Babe Ruth was the name everyone associated with home runs. By the early 70s, though, Hank Aaron was on his way to breaking Ruth's record.
Fastball is a high drive into deep left center field. Buckner goes back to the fence. It is gone.
About 2 years before surpassing Ruth, Aaron reached another major league milestone. Securing his next 3 years with the Atlanta Braves, Aaron signed a contract on February 29, 1972. With this new deal came a pay increase of $200,000 annually, which would be just under $1.5 million today.
$200,000 a year. That's an increase of $75,000 a year, 60% over his present salary. And it makes him the highest paid player in baseball history.
When Aaron's baseball career started almost 2 decades earlier, he was making a mere $200 per month. Aaron had not only come a long way since then, but his yearly salary was now larger than any other players in Major League Baseball.
So why is this man smiling? The hard work was finally paying off.
Buddy Holly's Glasses Uncovered, 1980. February 3rd, 1959 is forever known to rock and roll fans as the day the music died.
When it finally sunk in to my head
that he and Richie and the Big Bopper and the young pilot Roger were dead, it was just like, from that point on, it was just like somebody turning the lights out.
Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper were on a plane to Moorhead, Minnesota. They sadly didn't make it past Clear Lake, Iowa, where the 3 stars and pilot Roger Peterson perished. Holly was instantly recognizable thanks to his thick glasses, which were seemingly lost in the crash.
Ignored in the swirl of tragedy, these Mexican-made horn rims will be lost for decades.
That was until the snow melted. Along with other items like the Big Bopper's watch, Holly's glasses were found, albeit with damaged lenses. They were acquired by the local sheriff's office and put in an envelope marked April 7, 1959. However, this envelope wouldn't resurface until February 29, 1980, with the glasses going to Holly's widow, Maria Elena Holly.
Since there were no records of the glasses on file, it was decided that they had probably been found in the cornfield by a farmer and turned in several months after the crash. The sheriff turned the frames over to Holly's widow.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. The Siege of Sarajevo ends, 1996. February 29, 1996 was among the busiest news days in the history of leap years. The 123 souls aboard Fawcett Flight 251 tragically didn't reach their destination, marking Peru's deadliest plane crash to date. On the other side of the world, the Siege of Sarajevo entered its final stages after 1,425 agonizing days.
There were dozens and dozens of buses, bringing people from every corner of Bosnia. We organized a big demonstration for peace. The result, the first victim.
Commencing on April 5, 1992, the blockade of Bosnia and Herzegovina's capital was a key factor during the Bosnian War. Although the war ended on December 14, 1995 with the signing of the Dayton Accords, the Bosnian Serbs had yet to withdraw.
Later in the year, the Dayton Peace Accords were signed in Paris, dividing the country into 2 entities.
The Bosnian independence referendum was underway by the following leap day, allowing Sarajevo to declare the siege over.
On the 29th of February 1996, after almost 4 years, the siege of Sarajevo was finally lifted. But the destruction and loss of life will forever weigh heavy on this city's inhabitants.
It remains the longest military siege of modern times. Has anything fascinating ever happened to you on a leap day? Share your experiences in the comments.
Will you marry me?
In all my life, I never thought I'd see you down on one knee.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.